welcome to Escaping the Chains podcast. I am your host, John Humphreys. If you haven't had a chance yet, it's very helpful if you subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and you can give us reviews on there. Those are really helpful in just helping us continue getting these messages out here. That's what our basis is, basically. We definitely do Jesus stories, but we talk a lot about testimony, or we have a lot of testimonies and just breaking down how people got through some rough situations, and we want those stories to get to as many people as we can. Obviously, that's our because we're messengers, and then we're just trying to get these messages out. We want to thank Los Amores. They've been looking out for us. If you have a chance to go to the Boston Hill Center, downtown Marion, check them out. I promise you won't be disappointed, especially if you get anything steak quesadilla. They have steak, RJ. I don't know if you saw the picture of this, but they have steak. Yep. And quesadilla cheese on top of a potato, a baked potato, people. It is one of my favorite things I think I've ever tried. A baked potato, steak, and queso cheese. You can't beat it.
Why haven't you bought me one?
If they have baked potatoes tonight, we're going to be downtown, RJ, so yeah. We might have to do that. Actually, now that we talk about it, we might be down there tonight, people, so check the socials. You'll get a picture of it. Big baked potato, too. Amazing. But, we're not going to get into all that. We're not going to keep talking food yet. Maybe we'll start another podcast for the food. Today we have with us our friend Gary Burnham. How you doing, Gary?
I am doing great. How are you?
Blessed. I stay blessed, yes. So with Gary, we're just going to kind of dive into a story, have a little conversation. He does, he's with our team on Friday Night Fire. And so we know quite a bit about him, and we're excited for you all to get to know a little bit more about him as well. So, Gary, just tell us, why are you here? What got you to where you're sharing your testimony at places and things like that? How did we get here?
Really, man, it's giving back for me now. You know what I mean? It's giving back to people that are still struggling. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Things like that. But really, coming from the lifestyle I came from and addiction and things like that, when you get to this point in recovery, it's like you're almost drawn to give back to people. You know what I mean? It's it's a Jesus thing for me,
Yeah, it helps when you're serving others, I feel like, to find that spot. So how did you land in the world of jail, addiction, prison, all of that stuff?
So it started out at a very young age. I think the first time I used drugs, it was marijuana. I was 7 years old. And I ended up getting incarcerated just a few months later it was called a scare tactic program at the Juvenile Detention Center here in Marion. Mm-hmm. And so I just battled with different mental health situations, growing up from that point until early teenage years. Yeah. So they tried to diagnose me with all these different mental health things, and and then I think I just started rebelling, because I found out my mother had cancer at an early age, mm-hmm. and I just started running away from home and doing things like that, which landed me back into incarceration at an early age. And
why do you think you were running away from home after you found that out?
I think it's more of I didn't know how to cope. Yeah. Coping skills. I didn't have no coping skills at that time. So the only thing I knew was fight or flight syndrome. Yeah. So I chose to flight from a situation that I couldn't control. Yeah. You know what I mean? So not being able to face that, or help my mom out in that situation, it was scary. You know what I mean? Being 8, 9, 10 years old, that young, and knowing your mom could possibly die any day, it was a very, very scary situation.
So after you went into flight, so you said 8, 9, 10 years old, you had already kind of been locked up. So you started pretty early.
Yeah. Very, very early.
So how did that look? Once you were running away from home and kind of, out here on the streets, what did your life look like?
It honestly got really dark really fast because, like I said, the mental health issues stemmed from early on. Them trying to diagnose me, so they was basically telling me something was wrong with me, right? So I started to believe it, and now that I'm older, I realize it was just like the enemy trying to attack me and manipulate my mind in a way, you know, and it just made me believe like all the things that I was going through at the time was like the actual things that was wrong with me. You know what I mean? So,
I feel like sometimes using can lead to mental health issues. Sometimes mental health issues can lead to using. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, it's just like that perfect storm. That's why you see so many like dual diagnoses, which is basically some sort of a mental health diagnosis mixed with addiction, substance misuse, substance abuse, whatever they call it now. But you'll see a lot of times they kind of go hand in hand, because if you didn't have a lot of mental health challenges when you started using, you will have them once you start. And if you had mental health challenges and you started using, sometimes try to ease some of the problems or the things going on. You just diagnose yourself, or you know, you kind of medicate yourself to figure that out. So with all that going on. So you thought you had all this stuff, you know, all these issues. How did you respond to that?
So what I ended up doing around 13, 14 years old, I actually moved out of my mom's house and I dropped out of school. So I dropped out in the 8th grade. And then I moved in with some buddies or whatever. And that's when I started like dabbling with pills or painkillers, opiates. Yeah. And that's kind of where like my real addiction really started taking off from there. You know, like I didn't even know like what getting sick was until like one day I just didn't have them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And throughout like my teenage years, that progressed a lot. And then, you know, like when I got probably 18, 19 years old, I started experiencing or like messing with more hardcore drugs like methamphetamine and heroin and things like that. And then it was super dark, man. I just couldn't really find a way out of that. You know what I mean? I was stuck there for a really long time.
At this time, how was your mom doing when you got about 18, 19 years old?
So she had went through a lot of different surgeries. And, you know, like looking back on it now, like I wish I could have been present. But I was just, I ran from it from so long, I almost became numb to it in a way. You know what I mean? Because, like, I shut off all of my feelings and, like, I wasn't present in the moment to actually watch her deal with these things. So I didn't realize like how severe it was. And me just running the streets and doing drugs and things like that, like it got bad. And I just didn't realize how bad she was. But yeah, she went through multiple surgeries, some chemo, radiation, things like that, and a lot of things that I wasn't present for.
So when you were 18, 19, so you've kind of leveled up now into newer, harder things. Life's gotten darker, and you're probably trying to shut off some feelings and stuff, you know what I mean, and possibly be dealing with some mental health stuff. What was your life like? Were you still just staying from place to place, or?
Yeah, I mean, basically throughout, like I said, my teenage years and probably up until like my mid-20s, man, I literally just ran the streets unless I got back into incarceration. You know, like a little piece right there I skipped is from like 14 to 16, I was incarcerated. You know what I mean? So the only like sober or sobriety times that I had throughout my life until I finally got into recovery was because of incarceration. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think when I hit like 18, I finally tried to move out of the state of Indiana because I was just running the streets and doing drugs. And I ended up going to Florida, and I caught like 3 level, or I think they're Class B felonies down there. They're not like leveled like they are here in Indiana. Yeah. And I was facing like 25 years in prison.
How did that play out?
Luckily, you know, even though my mom was battling cancer at the time, she was a fighter. You know what I mean? So she ended up like selling everything she owned to pay my bond, and then we ended up signing that bond, which was like $75,000 over to a lawyer. And the lawyer we hired literally had like 100% win ratio on cases. So we took it to trial and we ended up beating it.
So even with all the stuff she had going on and the fact that you weren't paying no attention to anything she had going on, she still ponied up the money. Yeah. Moms are something else, ain't they?
Yeah, they definitely are. And I mean, she was like that my whole life, you know what I mean? And After that experience, I still came back, and you would think like it would open my eyes a little bit, facing that much time.
Came back to Indiana?
Yes, I came back to Indiana.
You were down in Florida after facing 25, huh?
Yeah. I went down there on a vacation and almost came back on probation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I came back to Indiana after that, and then, like I said, you'd think that would normally straighten up a normal person, you know what I mean? But I was just so used to incarceration that it just kept leading me down that dark path. And when I started getting heavier into like the meth use, I started like what I felt like at the time was like being attacked like demonically in a way.
Explain that.
So really what happened is like, I think looking back on it, like hindsight is like scientifically speaking, like I think that my brain was just so over, I guess, like drugged, right? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't think consciously. So what I would do is I'd black out, and these voices or things, I would literally speak in different forms of language and things. And like people's had these on recordings, you know what I mean? Like a couple videos went viral on Facebook, things like that, of me doing like just some human things, you know what I mean? And I can't really explain it to this day, but I know that I was not myself. And I know it wasn't something that, was like godly, you know what I mean, in that aspect. So it's really like just hard to explain the feeling that I experienced during that, because like I was kind of blacked out. Like I didn't believe it until I seen the videos of myself doing that.
Was it scary?
It was, watching the videos, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like actually looking and realizing it was yourself, you know what I mean? You're like, what? Like, that's crazy. That's really me sitting there doing that, you know what I mean? Like, because you have no recollection of it. You have no idea of what was going on. And I mean, like, I would be on the ground, like doing weird movements, like movements that I couldn't do being awake, you know what I mean? Like this weird things. And, and then I end up getting incarcerated again. I spent probably like a year and a half, close to 2 years incarceration that time. And I thought like I had like the sober thing a little bit. Mm-hmm. I ended up getting out, and it was the same thing. And
how long did it take?
For what?
For you to get back on your bull?
Oh, it was 24 hours, if not even that. You know what I mean? I had somebody pick me up in the parking lot before my mom got there, and it was back off to the races. You know what I mean? And then, at that point, it started getting like super bad as far as like not just running the streets, but actually becoming homeless. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My mom stopped opening her door to me. My mom stopped enabling me in my usage or my activities, or like, manipulating her to get the things that I wanted. And that has turned me to, the trap house life, and in and out of trap houses, and staying with random people and couch surfing basically for quite some time.
We talk about trap houses a lot. For the people that don't know what that is, explain what a trap house is.
A trap house, it could have a few different meanings. It could be something where somebody like sells drugs out of, or it could be like kind of like a flop trap house. And what I mean by that is like a place or an area where a lot of people that use like accumulate at, and they literally use it for that. I mean, like dirty, filthy, needles on the floor, like all bad, you know what I mean? And I've been in situations where, there's kids there, you know what I mean? And they're just running around, and they're exposed to a lot of these things. And it's sad that you don't see a lot of that when you're in addiction. You know what I mean? You're so numb to the world that everything is just passing you by.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, so your mom's still around.
Yep.
But she's stopped enabling you.
Yep.
And so you're in trap houses and stuff like that. Where do we go from there?
So that lifestyle probably went on for about 2 years. And let me remind you, I guarantee that I had a warrant during this whole time, because usually if I'm out of jail, I have a warrant. You know what I mean? Because I violated probation. I never showed up for the first meeting.
You never went to probation?
Ever. Not one time. You know what I mean? Like, ever. So I was usually on the run, or had a warrant, or, ducking and dodging cops, so That was literally like how my life played out for the longest time, the addiction, incarceration, on the run. So at this point, this is kind of like when I came to the encounter that my life was going to change, but I didn't know my life was going to change. So I got locked up for what I'd like to consider my final time of being locked up, right? So I ended up going to the Grant County Jail again. I spent a little over 2 years there. During that process, I was down in the regular blocks. A CEO came to me and asked me if I wanted to join the inmate work crew. At first, I told him no. You know what I mean? You know how, like, some people that are in jail, people look out for you and they give you stuff, and then they might not expect it back, but it's just as a man, you uphold to that. So, like, I had a buddy that gave me stuff when I first got into jail, and I felt like I still owed him. So I didn't want to leave the block until, like, I paid him back. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And literally, I went back to my cell, man, and I heard, like, an audible voice, and I can't explain if it was God. I can't explain if it was just my, like, schizophrenia thinking still coming into play or something, you know, from the mental health issues, or what it was. But literally, as soon as I heard that voice, I heard my buddy yell down at me, and he was like, man, just get up and go. Bro, just get up and go. And I decided to get up and go, and I went to the inmate work crew, and that's like the beginning of the change for me. I met a guy named Doug Jennis, which you know Doug.
Yeah, we love Doug.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Doug does Celebrate Recovery at Open Door Church on Tuesdays. That's in Converse. We were out there a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Really cool experience. Really good group. Celebrate Recovery over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. You know, he allowed me to get my first testimony there. You was there, you know, and but yeah, so it played out with Doug. Like, you know, I heard a lot of crazy things about Doug at first. Like, people were telling me, like, he's super strict and all he listens to is gospel music in the van. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know if this is gonna work out for me. You know what I mean? I really didn't want no part of it at first, you know? Yeah. And believe it or not, as time passed by, you know, I started, like, vibing with that gospel music, and I started, like, at least listening to it, and, you know what I mean, giving the idea a little attention, you know? And it got to the point to where, like, Doug started just trying to speak life into me on a daily basis. I became what's called, like, his front seat guy. Yeah. And what that means is, like, you kind of get a promotion on the work crew. I mean, I was on his work crew for over 19 months, so I felt like I deserved the promotion. You know what I mean? Yeah. But, so I got bumped up to the front seat guy. So, you know, in a van, in a work crew inmate van, there's the two front seats, and then, you know, it's like a cargo van. Yeah. People in the back. But, yeah, so, like, me and Doug talked a lot, like, just on a personal level, and I felt like he at that time, like, I knew what he was trying to do. Like, he was trying to just get me to lean on God at that time, you know what I mean? And what I didn't say is, before this incarceration, my mom actually passed away. You know,
Were you out when she passed away?
I was, yeah. I did get to attend her funeral, but I was completely so induced on just meth and heroin that I was, like, in a meth-induced psychosis.
So what was that like, being in that headspace, finding out that she had passed?
So believe it or not, I was sitting inside of a camper in somebody's backyard. That's how bad my life was at that time. I mean, it had no heat. I think maybe we had an extension cord run into it to give us lights. You know what I mean? If we did have heat, it was because we bought a propane tank and it was running a stove, and we had it wide open in there. You know what I mean? Just getting high and living the worst type of lifestyle. Probably haven't showered in a month. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was just so bad. But my cousin ended up letting me know, and then I got to go up to hospice, is what it was, where she was at, and that was, like, what they told me would be, like, my final goodbyes to her. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which once I got there, she was pretty much already passed away, like, on a ventilator. And now that I look back on it, I think that truly, like, they gave her some kind of pain medication or something. So my mom was on pain medication throughout, you know, the history of having cancer, obviously, but she never took them. And this is something I haven't told a lot of people. You know what I mean? This is being, like, all the way transparent. Like, she never took her painkillers, and that's a lot of, like, where my addiction ranged from. I got pills from my mom and things like that. But they gave her morphine while she was sleeping there at hospice, and she ended up passing away overnight.
So probably just make her comfortable.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I mean, that's...
If she had no tolerance, that's going to knock her out.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of backtracked on that part a little bit, but yeah, when after that, you know what I mean? So me going into this jail sentence, I was completely broken. I literally was stripped away from everything. I had nothing else to lean on. I didn't have my mother. I have a sister, but she ran away to Florida, literally like a few weeks after my mom passed away. So now, like, I'm sitting in jail, like, my mom just died. My sister just ran away. I have no idea where she is, and she's autistic. You know what I mean? So, like, I felt like it was my responsibility.
Did you have a pretty good relationship with her up till then?
Yeah, like, me and my sister were basically just raised by my mom. You know what I mean? So we lived in the same household the majority of my life until I got into, you know what I mean, running the streets and addiction and things like that. But, I mean, we were super close, like, growing up. Yeah.
You still talk to her?
Yeah, I finally... So... to like go back on my story a little bit is that like that incarceration time, that whole time I was incarcerated, I didn't know where she was or what she was doing.
Were you stressing about that?
It was super stressful. You know what I mean? It was super stressful. And at that moment, I'm trying to process my mom's death. You know what I mean? Going through like all of this. And I didn't really know how to process it because I was so used to that fight or flight, you know, and I was flighting from it for so long that I was almost completely numb to the thought of her actually being gone. You know what I mean? And I thought that was going to maybe set me up for relapse when I got out.
Yeah.
But like I said, when I met Doug, man, he started speaking life into me. And I talk about it a lot at some of my testimonies with Nikki Gracious. And Doug ended up playing him finally on the radio, man.
So he transitioned from the gospel over to Nick Gracious. Yeah.
And this is how we got him to do it, is I told him like my genre of music was more like rap, and he's like, hey, I know this guy, Nikki Gracious.
Yeah, because he came to RJ when we were doing Friday nights. Doug didn't, he's not a fan of that music, right? But Doug came to a Friday night, and Nick was performing there, because Nick's from just up north a little bit, so he used to, we still talk to him from time to time, but he would come down, oh gosh, every 6 months or so, and just perform, you know, just give a testimony or perform. And Doug was at one of those, I think Doug said. So when he went back to the work crew, he was like, hey, I know this guy. You know what I mean? So they transitioned from gospel. I'm sure Doug still prefers gospel, but...
Yeah. And I mean, believe it or not, he definitely entertains it a little more than what I thought he would, you know. He likes to play it now. I noticed for a lot of the guys, because he's seen what it did for me. And, you know, of course, a lot of guys say this, but when they hear, like, Stand Up by Nikki Gracious, it almost describes, like, most addicts' life. You know what I mean? Like, the schizophrenia and stuff like that you go through, you know, so it's easily
What's he got the song? He's got the other song, This I Pray, diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic.
Yeah. That one's a really good song, too.
That's the one I listen to the most. Like, out of everything he's released, that one seems to be, like, it's when it comes across my playlist... It's Nick Gracious, people, if you're listening. He's on iTunes and YouTube and everything. But Stand Up was the one that kind of blew up. But then he came out with This I Pray, which I think I definitely have listened to that out of everything he's released the most. I like a lot of his stuff, but that one's a banger. Yeah,
I like Trenches a lot too with Clean Slate. Have you heard that?
Trenches, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's more of like a street banger, they would say, but it's all about God, man. It's all about Jesus, and it's pretty fire.
That the 5150,
yeah, it's really good.
There's a lot of good stuff. Go check him out if you haven't yet, people. He's got some good stuff, and he still comes around here. We're talking about maybe getting him in this summer sometime.
Yep, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, get to share his testimony. Just let him do his thing. You can kind of let him do his thing, you know.
Yep. But yeah, where it took off from that, like I said, looking back on it, man, I realized that Doug was dropping little seeds, is what he was doing during that whole time. He was dropping seeds, and he was waiting for me to pick one up. You know what I mean? He was waiting for me to pick one up and like plant it and see how it grew. And he started challenging me, you know, further on during my stay of incarceration. He started challenging me to like read the Bible and things like that. And I say like a little funny joke when I do my testimonies that I told him that I did one time, but I really didn't. And then he questioned me the next day we went out, like, oh, well, what'd you learn or what'd you read about? And he caught me up on that one. You know what I mean? He definitely caught me up. So, but yeah, I mean, it just, it blossomed from there. You know, I really started, you know, taking like the God thing seriously and reading the Bible and learning scripture and digging into it. And it started like opening my eyes that there's more to this world than we see, you know, and it definitely started changing my perspective as time went on, you know, and I started like praying a lot more. And I felt like the more I prayed, like the more he actually answered, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I think also the closer you get to him, the more you can see his hand on things.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're not paying attention, he can still be working in your life, but you're not paying attention. You know, when you start to pay attention, you're like, gosh, he's had his hand on me here, here, here. He's made a way, you know what I mean, in this situation, in that situation. Sometimes I just never saw it, you know. But even getting you on that work crew was a very, very huge thing for you to encounter somebody like Doug who will really walk it out with you. When you're not the only person that has a testimony about, you know, Doug too.
right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it was all God's plan. I just didn't see it until it started unfolding. You know what I mean?
so God's working on you on the work crew. What happens as you start to get closer to getting out? Did you know you were going to be getting out, or?
So no, I didn't. Crazy thing is like that whole like 2 years that I spent in incarceration, I never had a court date. I had like my initial, and that was it. And my lawyer kept postponing my court date out and wasn't telling me anything, and the guards wouldn't tell me anything. Doug didn't know very much. You know what I mean? So like, it got to the point of where I'm just like, oh, I'll get out when I get out.
Don't say who the attorney is, but I have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
We have an attorney here, RJ, and you think he's not doing anything, but he's pushing these dates and just wears them out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So people get frustrated, like, I ain't heard from him. But just like with that, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And, you know, come to find out, I realized like why he was doing it afterwards. It's because he wanted some time under my belt. I mean, I was in there on like auto theft charges and 2 different cases of probation that I violated, and you know, of course,
2 years in county is a lot of time.
It
like
is
a
in
lot of
county,
time for him to go back and be like, he's done 2 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And get you a favorable plea after that. So it was really a smart move, I think.
And I mean, during that time, like how Doug kept me motivated, or I guess kept me like not giving up hope in a way, is he kept telling me, he was like, man, it's going to happen when, you know, God's done with you. Like when he's ready, and he's basically molding you right now to become the person you're supposed to be, so that way you'll be ready to go back on the streets.
So all you knew, you were going to go to a court date and get 5 more years. You weren't real sure what was going on.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea. And like I said, man, when I started getting closer to God, I kind of just left it in his hands. You know what I mean? We started praying, and, you know, I literally think like I went out on the work crew, and Doug told me that day, he was like, man, you know, it's going to come soon. I feel it. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, at this time, he's a lot closer to God than I was. So maybe he just like, he felt it. He felt his presence. And literally that next morning I woke up, you know, I had my green work shirt on, you know what I mean? I'm ready to go out and do the work crew stuff. And Doug stops me at the door and gives me a pat on the back. He's like, man, go in. I'm like, for what? And he was like, man, you finally got court today, dude. I'm like, what? You know, and this is after 2 years of sitting in county jail with no answers. You know, and I ended up going to court that day, and I got released. They released me out on probation. And man, after that, you know, like, it really like just opened my eyes up, like, man, God is real, you know what I mean? And I think just a few short months after that, so when I first got out, I put myself into the Hope House.
That's a transitional house.
Yes, it's a sober living home here in Marion, Indiana. So I put myself there, and a few months after I was there, I chose to get baptized and actually give my life fully and accept Jesus as my Lord
Who
and my
baptized
Savior.
you?
Doug Jennis.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, and I told him the whole time I was locked up, I'm like, dude, you're gonna be the guy to baptize me, bro.
What's cool about that is in a couple of weeks, RJ, we're on the Friday night service, we're opening up the baptism tank, and Doug's going to be, I think we're going to be baptizing, but Doug's coming in and doing a message about baptisms. But I think that's a cool, like, full circle type of thing. So if you're in the Marion area, that's May 9th, I think, at 6:30.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be awesome, man. Just to be able to witness that there at the Friday night service.
Doug's so calm. Like, he's really a chill presence. And then, but when he gets to preaching sometimes, the last time he shared there, he's got some fire in him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the loudest I ever heard him. You know what I mean? He gets to going. So I like the stories where we can kind of talk about somebody came along beside somebody and helped kind of guide them and met them where they were at. I think that's some of the important stuff is like, you know, you want to walk with people, meet them where they're at, you know what I mean, help them, you know what I mean, instill some growth and get closer to God. But like, you know what I mean, some people just have a way about them that seems to have a better success rate.
Yeah.
You know, and like with him, the people that have been around him, a lot of them have been like, oh, Doug, you know, on the work crew, just the way that he has impact on people's lives. I think it's something to really look at as we are walking with people that are in similar situations that we used to be in, you know what I mean? Or maybe they didn't and they just need somebody to be there for them.
Yeah. I always tell guys now, I was like, man, don't ever run from God's plan because little did I know, I ran from the cops my entire life, right? And who would have ever known that was a cop that would have changed my life?
Well, that's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like, what's like the irony in that? That's wild to think about.
My friend Aaron Euler, he basically helped walk me to the cross, and he was a detective. Mm-hmm. You know, that's one of the ways I kind of know Doug is like, you know what I mean, some of the chaplaincy stuff. But yeah, Aaron was a detective, so I was staying out at the Hart Motel. He'd pull up in his cruiser, you know what I mean, and come out and talk to me, and we'd go out to dinner. He just did life. It was the same kind of thing of like, met me where I was at, talked to me about God, you know. And I think one time he was like, "Oh, doesn't it make you nervous to be like be at Starbucks with a sheriff's deputy?" I was like, "I don't care." You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not out here giving out information. Like, this dude played a huge part in my, you know, sobriety and salvation. So,
yeah, I tell guys that all the time too. Like, so here in a minute, if we get into like where I'm at now or whatever, but so some individuals I work with, I let them know that immediately. Like, you know, I'm not the cops. You know, I do live this sober thing. I do live the right way. But, you know, you still have like, just as a man, you know, I'm not the police. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. So
yeah, I think that's what I have to talk to people about with some of my jobs. It's like I still have that standard of like, if you tell me something that stays between us. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And that's a code that doesn't switch up, you know, just because you transition. I think in the kingdom it should be the same thing. Like people should be able to like trust to tell you stuff and not worry about it leaking everywhere or getting turned over to law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or we won't be able to do our jobs very well if we're out here telling on people.
Nobody would trust you. Or
they go to jail and be like, you can't trust John. Don't tell him nothing.
Yeah, I would definitely give you a bad look. You know what I mean?
So before we get into where you are now, finish the story about your sister, because I think there's people that probably want to know what. So she took off to Florida. The whole time you were locked up, you didn't hear from her?
No, I did not. So I did have a couple of people that was other work crew leaders at the time. I won't mention any names or whatever, but they tried to help in a way. They tried to, do their own little Facebook research and seeing if they could just find her on any type of social media or something. And I remember one time I was, shoveling dog poop at the dog pound. Dude, horrible at the Humane Society. That was one of the work crew jobs that we did on a different crew. So when Doug wasn't there, we went out with a different crew.
Doug wasn't doing the poop, right?
No, so he used to. He actually started out doing that, and then he switched to...
he does like lawn stuff, right?
Yeah,
like the graveyards and keeping up with that,
like the morbid part of it, I guess, in a way. You know, we take care of tombstones and headstones and things like that. And, I mean, we make it look nice, so we're very respectful with that. And that's a big thing with Doug, too, is make it look nice. Yeah. But, yeah, anyways, so I was kind of, you know, giving the guy an old nudge, like, man, see what you can find out, dude. I mean, I've been in here, you know, going on like 19, 20 months, and I don't even know if my sister's alive at this time. You know what I mean? I don't even know if she made it to Florida. I didn't even know, to be all the way honest, I didn't even know she actually went to Florida. I just knew that she ran away. So, yeah, he did a little digging, and he found like a profile on Facebook that was her name, but I don't think it had like a picture. And like, let me remind you, my sister was autistic, so she's never done like the social media thing.
So she doesn't usually have social media at all.
She did, and she would. I don't even think she ever had her own like phone growing up. Yeah. Like, you know, she was pretty sheltered with my mom. Like, so me and my sister's lifestyles were completely different. Yeah. But yeah, he did a little research, and we thought we found her. So that gave me a little bit of like closure, at least knowing she's alive. Yeah. So now I know she's alive, and she's got to be somewhat okay, you know. So that gave me a little bit of like comfort, I guess, and just knowing that, you know. But yeah, like once I got out, it was still probably a good 8-9 months after I got out. You know, I'm doing the whole house thing, and still trying to find her. I was trying to find that profile that the guy, the deputy showed me or whatever, and I had no luck finding it. And I would say probably about a year and a half ago, I just got a bing on my messenger. Man, that was my sister, just out of nowhere. Messaged me and told me she was down in Florida and she's doing great, and she got married to some guy, and, you know, like the happily ever after.
So she did go to Florida.
She did, yeah.
She got married. So do you guys talk?
Yeah, we actually speak on a daily basis now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Have you had a chance to see her yet?
I have not. That's kind of like my next step on goals. You know what I mean? Like,
get down to Florida and see sis. That's awesome. She was okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing. You know what I mean? Just having that comfort of knowing that, you know. And it kind of made, you know, like, I'm the little brother, right? And she's the older sister, but it kind of made, like, the little big brother kind of proud that she, in a way, like, you know, the circumstances was horrible. You know what I mean? My mom passing away, her not knowing what to do, but it kind of made me, like, proud in a sense, like, okay, well, she put on her big girl pants now. Yeah. She stepped foot out the house, you know, she came out the nest finally and really, you know, managed to succeed in it. You know, she actually made it all the way to Florida on her own without, could you imagine that, you know? Yeah. Never stepping foot out of your mom's house and get all the way to Florida by yourself?
Yeah.
Wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you do now?
Okay, so when I graduated Hope House, like, so my career path started out, I tried to get into, like, welding and stuff like that. I ended up getting a certification in welding, which was phenomenal in my life. You know, I haven't really done a whole lot of nothing, you know. That lasted a little while, and then my heart was drawn. You know, I've really just been, since my faith has grown, I've been on the pathway of, like, wherever God takes me, right? Yeah. You know, and he led me to, and before I start saying this, let me remind you, like, it actually happened at Friday Night Fire in the service. Yeah. Is where all of this kind of, like, came to surface, you know, and I really wanted to get into, you know, the peer recovery coaching and just giving back or helping others that's still in the dark areas of their life, you know. Yeah. And old Brian was down there, old
Brian Blevins. He's been on the podcast. I can't remember what episode, but he's been on there. Big part of this, yeah.
And I told him about it, man, how I went to an interview and basically got denied the position. Somebody else got the position in the county I first went to. And I told him about it, and the next day I got a call from Delaware County IRACs, and that's in Muncie, Indiana. Mm-hmm. And they set me up for an interview. Jamie Blevins, she was this
That's Brian's wife.
Yeah.
She's been on the podcast as well, just a couple episodes ago. Yeah, RJ, Jamie was on.
Yep. And so, yeah, she gave me a call, and she was like, man, we need you. We need you. And at this time, I wasn't certified or anything, so I didn't think, like, man, they're going to hire me right now, not with no certification or nothing. But, I had that lived-in experience, and that's a big thing with Covenant becoming a peer recovery coach.
Yeah.
You got to have that lived-in experience. And, I went to I did the Zoom interview, and they was like, man, you're starting work tomorrow. I quit my welding job that day. I was out of there, dude. I was tired of breathing in that welding smoke and going through that daily trauma of just the physical work that I was putting on my body, man. I was done with it. So, long story short with that part, man, so now I'm a forensic engagement coordinator for the Delaware County IRACS, and IRACS is Integrated Reentry and Correctional Support.
So that's like programming meetings, things like that inside of the jails.
Yes, correct. So we do work in like a correctional rehabilitation facility. And so the forensic engagement coordinator, what I do is I actually teach classes or group settings to individuals or participants is what we call them. They are all incarcerated individuals. I teach things like the Matrix program, which started out as a drug court program. And we teach RAP, which is Wellness Recovery Action Planning. Kind of just gives them little, there's like 8 dimensions of wellness, and they kind of build off that and build their own planning for that. But I really enjoy it, man. I didn't think that I would get this far this fast,
So from being locked up to now going into jails and trying to help people find freedom, right? Yeah. That's full circle.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I mean, never in a million years would I think that they would let somebody that has over 30 felony convictions go back into a jail and speak life into people.
Yeah.
And teach them about recovery. You know what I mean? And that's all God right there, man. There's no other explanation for that.
If you could sit on a park bench with any character in the Bible and you can't say Jesus for an hour, who would it be?
I've thought about this question for some time, and I think I told you a few answers in the past, but ever since I've really been thinking about it, and I heard you say something at Friday Night Fire, I think was just like last Friday, but and I never thought about it in this way of like sitting with somebody, but it would honestly be the thief on the cross. That you said that, dude, because that's so powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a man that virtually lived the life like we lived, or we used to live, right?
Yeah.
And right at the moment, right before death, before he actually, succumbs to, life, and Jesus told him, like, you're going to the kingdom with me, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's wild. I'm going to definitely find him one day. I'm going to be like, when my time comes, he's on my top list of people to find and be like, dude, what was that like? You know what I mean? Because it's also a story that resonates with us, is because the thief on the cross is us. And that's what I was saying. You guys, if you're in the area, you should check out a Friday Night Fire, because we have a lot of people talking about it, but it's a cool service. It's downtown Marion. You can find it on our social medias. And we just kind of pray for each other, praise God. People tell their stories, or some people just get up there and start talking about Scripture, and it's a cool environment. It's similar to things, but it's really not like anything,
It's not like an NA meeting, and it's not church either. It's kind of like a mixture of both.
Yeah, somehow there's some like beautiful, chaotic mixture in there, and it's really a family thing,
Yeah, and I mean, people can come as they are. You know what I mean? We have no certain type of people. You can come in the door as you are, man, and you're welcome. You're invited, and
we love you.
Yeah,
we love you. That's the one thing you'll know, is that we love you.
Absolutely.
And so that's one of the things we want to make sure that we're doing. So before we close this thing out, Gary, I want you to tell them the candle thing that I heard you speak up in Auburn when we had Sarah had us go up to A Better Life Brown as Hope Auburn, and Gary shared up there. Really good people. Love that meeting. It's really like it's a good group.
Yeah.
But Before we close out, I want you to tell the candle thing. Like, what is your purpose here?
Yeah. So basically, like, and I had a buddy say something similar to this, so that's where like it resonated from. And it's like just the candle lighting idea, right? So the way I look at it is, I was in the dark for a very long time, and there's a lot of people that's still in the darkness. And as long as I keep my candle lit and I continue to try to light other people's candles around me, and then they light other people's candles, and then that person lights somebody's candle, eventually we can start really pulling a large amount of people out of the darkness, you know what I mean? Because they have that lit candle. So it's candle lighting. It's just, I light your candle, you light RJ's candle, you know what I mean? And we go on from there. And I really think that's how hope is spread in more of a mass, like we all really work. It's like discipleship, you know what I'm saying? Like with Jesus, it's the same thing, but, not everybody's believer, so you got to kind of work with them where they're at, and this recovery thing, it's serious. And candle lighting, man, light their candle, light that fire up for them, and they can see through the darkness and make their way out.
If you're listening, if you got a lit candle, share it. If your candle's not lit, get around some people that are lit. Get around people that are on fire. So, Gary, we appreciate you coming in. We've been talking about it for a while. I think it landed at the perfect time. For everybody, RJ, do you have anything?
I don't, man.
Okay. Yeah. Well, poor RJ. He has a microphone now, so like I've just drug him into the.
I just don't know what to say most of the time.
I've drug him into this. He's part of the podcast now on a different level. We appreciate RJ and Delivered Media. We have people talk to us about the production stuff, and we've. Like, honestly, RJ had to learn a lot of stuff the hard way, but he's with every week everything continues to get better and grow, and that's because it's not because of what we're doing, it's because of the work that RJ and Delivered Media are doing. So if you're looking to do a podcast, him and his wife are also doing some, can I say that? Also going to be doing some worship things, and they are really good. And if your church just needs sound, like they do a lot of different things, but it's Delivered Media on Facebook, because they can just reach out to you on there, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So just reach out to them, because that's really the production of this. Like, without all that, it would just be me talking to people into our iPhones, and that would not be a good product. I mean, maybe the stories would still be great and God would still be good, but aesthetically, it wouldn't be amazing. The sound would probably be horrible. So we're really grateful for them, grateful for Los Amores. And like I said, if this podcast has any impact, or you've heard stories you like, share them with people. Encourage people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a review. Give us a share. We appreciate you all so much for sitting in and listening. Gary, we appreciate you for coming in and sharing. And we will be with you. I think we're coming at you on Wednesday mornings now. So this will drop on a Wednesday morning, and we will talk to you and see you next Wednesday. Check us out. Check out my personal page, John Humphreys, on social media. That's the best way to figure out where we're going next. We've got a lot of cool things coming up, and we're excited to get out. If you would like to have me or any of my guests come share something that you're doing, just hit me up on Messenger, and if it's me, we'll get it figured out, and if it's one of our guests, we'll get you connected to them. So we thank you. God is good. He is a chain breaker, and we just praise God for all of the testimonies. These things keep coming, people. We're backed up on testimonies. God has never stopped doing what God does. So, and we praise Him for that. So you all have a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in. This is Escaping the Chains podcast with John Humphreys.